Hello and welcome to another tutorial video. Today, I'm going to walk you through all the different tools and features, the basics of Adobe Photoshop. I'm in version 2023 right now, and it really doesn't matter what version you're using. Normally, with these types of videos, you'll be able to see and use all the different tools regardless of the version you're using. So, I'm going to go from start to finish. I'm going to put chapters in the description of this video so you can jump to the part of the video you may want to get to, but I recommend watching the whole video so you get a view as to what the different tools do, what they can do, and how you can use them. If you're looking for more of a deep dive for an individual tool, I have those as well, and they're all over YouTube, but this is more of a basic overview of what everything does, and by the end of the video, you should have a full grasp on how to use Photoshop, at least enough to be dangerous. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Open up Photoshop. The first thing I'm going to show you is to create a new document. Now, the easiest way is going to File, New, and then once you do that, you're going to see the new document page come available to you here. They'll have your recent items, but more than likely, you'll be able to select from one of these options up here, which are, I call them templates, whatever you want to call them. Let's go to print, and then obviously we'll just choose a regular letter size here. And then once you're done, you can give that a name, and then you'll be able to see the size of it, all the different details here, and then just go and click the blue button here that says create. And that'll leave us with a blank and new page here on Photoshop. Now, I will say this, everything within your workspace within Photoshop can be changed. And what I mean by that, if we go to Window and then go to Workspace, you'll see a couple of pre-defined workspaces. So are you working in motion? Are you painting? Are you in photography? If you select one of these workspaces, it will present you with a workspace that they believe to be best for that specific type of work. Now, for me, I like to basically choose the essentials and then make the changes that I need for the different type of work that I'm doing, but any element or window within Photoshop can be moved around like you see here. Here's my tools. I can move them around by clicking on the little dark box here at the top. I can just click and hold that, and I can move, and that can snap anywhere on my workspace. The same goes for like layers right here. I can move that. I can collapse that by clicking the arrow key here. Anything that you want to do to make your workspace more comfortable, maybe you're using dual monitors, all of that can be moved and arranged to your liking. And then if you go to Window here and you see something that you would like to have that's not on there, let's say you want to see the swatches table here, you click on that, and as you see here, swatches come available to you, and you can click and hold that tab and move that anywhere on your workspace to make it, again, easy for you to navigate and get to if it's something that you're going to want to get to. So find a workspace that works best for you, but as I just mentioned, you can move around any of these toolbars or windows to suit your style of design, whatever it may be. All right, so another way of starting a new project, let's say you got a photo that you want to edit in Photoshop. The easiest way of going about doing that is find that photo on your computer, whether you're using Mac or PC. Like I have a little photo of this child here. I can basically find that on my computer, and then you can just drag that. If I click and hold and drag that on top of the Photoshop icon, it will automatically bring that into Adobe Photoshop. And then another way would be going to File and then Place Embedded. And then once you do that, it'll allow you to find the different images on your computer, find that, go to Place, and then you can see here it's going to place that on, on top of my project in the size that it originally is in. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Now, if you do something within Photoshop, let's say I made a mistake and I added some letters here. If you want to undo anything in Photoshop, you just click the Command or Control Z button on your computer or keyboard, and that will automatically make those mistakes go away. So let's say you paint something like I'm doing here, Command or Control Z will get rid of that, or you can go to Edit and then Undo very, very easily. All right, here we go. Let's go through our tools here now that we know how to get stuff into our Photoshop document, okay? So once we're here, you're going to see the toolbar, which is what I call this guy here, and then you're going to see a number of tools. Again, if you want a deep dive for a specific tool, I recommend you search for that specifically. This is just going to get you up and running. Also over here, you're going to see something that says layers. Layers are a big part of Photoshop. If you want to add something onto this, image here, you'll want to add a new layer. In order to do that, go to the Layers tab here. You'll see the little addition symbol here. Click that and you can add as many layers as you want. Let's say we want to add a little bit of a brush stroke here. Go to our layer that we just created, select the color that we may want to use, and you can see here, I can now add a nice little brush stroke if I want to on top of this image, and it's going to be on layer 1. If I click the eye icon here, it'll hide it. If I click the eye icon again, it will bring it back. Deleting a layer is as simple as clicking and holding a layer, dragging that to your trash can here under the Layers panel, and you are good to go. So layers are important. Think of it as you're making a cake. You're layering one after the other, and anything that is on top of another layer will show up before or in the foreground. So understand that as well. We have our background, which is our image, and then we have the additional layers that we may be adding. So let's go through our tools here. First, we have right here, this is going to be our Move tool. So if we have our Move tool here, anything within Photoshop, so let's say we have a rectangle here within our document, anything or element that is able to be moved that is not, even your background, but you can click and hold with our Move tool, and we can just drag this around the document and put it anywhere that we want. Again, you will need to have the Move tool selected. Now, almost all of these tools have what they call subtools. If you click and hold, you'll see other tools within that specific tool, which means that you can select them. It just makes it easier, and it makes it to where you don't have to have like 50,000 tools on the side. They're just showing you tools that they think that you're going to want to use most of the time. So you have your Move tool and Artboard tool. Artboard tool is going to be basically if you want to change the size of the artboard, you can click and hold, and you can basically make that specific artboard the size that you want to make it. That's basically all you would need to do there. Again, anything that you want removed, you can select with your selection or move tool, and then just click the backspace or delete on your keyboard, and you are good to go. All right, next we're going to look right here. This is our rectangular marquee tool. Basically, this is going to make a selection in a specific shape. So let's say you want to make a selection, to be in a rectangle shape. You can just select the marquee tool here, select the shape you want, and then that's going to select that specific area. And as you can see, it's in a rectangular form here, so it allows me to move that selected area. Again, I'll just go and do Command and Control Z to remove that. Now, let's say you make a selection within Photoshop. You don't like that selection. If you just hit Command or Control D on your keyboard, that will then deselect that area. Lots of times you'll see those little marching ants across your screen, and you'll go, man, I wish those would go away. Well, you can do it that way, okay? Next, we have our Lasso Tool, Polygonal Lasso Tool, and our Magnetic Lasso Tool. Basically, this tool here, it allows you to make selections in basically any form. So instead of right up here where you have like your rectangular or circle tool, this allows us to go in here and draw a specific area. I'm just obviously going to do a rough sketch here around the dog. Please excuse my sloppy hand right here. And as you can see, that's going to allow me to have that selection, again, good for removing different aspects of an image. And again, I'm going to undo that now. That's going to allow you to do it basically freehand. Next, we have our Quick Selection tool. Right here, we have Object Selection, Quick Selection, and Magic Wand tool. Now, Quick Selection basically, instead of having to draw around something, you can basically click and hold, and it basically tries to guess what you're trying to remove or select, as you can see here. If I do that, I can basically grab my Move tool, and as you can see, I can move stuff away. Anything I have selected, I can then move that, I can resize it, I can change the color of it, add a layer, whatever I want to do. Basically, that's what you would want to do with your Quick Selection tool. There are a bunch of great tutorials out there showing you how to use that in even more detail if you would like. Underneath the Quick Selection tool, you're going to see something that says Magic Wand tool. Basically, this is just a one-click version of that where you click and it tries to guess what you're trying to select. So let's say you're trying to select the dog here, click on that. As you can see, because of the different colors and different ways here, it doesn't do a very good job. But if we go to our kid here, if we do use that, you can see it does a fairly good job. Another thing you could do is go back to your Quick Selection tool, and you can see now it has the addition symbol on it. If we go and click the minus symbol here, instead of adding something to our selection, it will actually remove stuff from our selection. So as you can see here, that's done a pretty good job over there. And I can go here and I can remove that different, selection, and with content aware here, I can add some really cool effects if that's something that I want to do, okay? All right, next we're going to have our crop tool. This is fairly self-explanatory. It brings up an area of your project here where you can go and drag these things on the corner here. And if we like that crop, we can hit enter, and it's going to crop an image to the size that we want it. Let's say we only want it to be the face here. We can even go and select the face, make it a little bigger here, hit enter, and it's going to, again, crop that image the way that we want it. Crop tool is fairly self-explanatory. Everything underneath that is more kind of nuanced, so I'm not really going to go over that now. All right, and next we have our frame tool. I love the frame tool because it allows you to create a frame here, whether it be a rectangular frame, a square frame, whatever it may be, and then it allows you to take an image from your computer or wherever you're getting it and basically drag that image into that frame, and it's going to fit perfectly within that frame. Now, again, if we dive into this, now that we have the frame, we can move that anywhere on our document, and it's just a great way of basically drawing out a frame like you see here, and then going and finding an image and then dragging that image into that specific frame, and it's going to make it proportionately work within the frame that you've created. So that's how you use the frame tool, one of my favorite tools within Photoshop, okay? Next, we have our eyedropper tool, another one of my favorite tools. Let's say you're trying to match this color here. You're wanting to put some text on this project, but you want to match the yellow in his shirt. All you would want to do is grab your eyedropper tool, click once here, and hold wherever you see the yellow that you want. And then what you would do is you would just go and start typing some text here in the text box, and it's going to match that yellow perfectly right there with your eyedropper tool. A beautiful tool, very simple. I just love that tool. Next, we have our clone stamp tool, and I'm going to show you exactly what they show you within the program here. It allows you to select different elements, like you see they have the cherries here, where you can basically select that and then draw those out with the brush. Very, very cool. Again, very nuanced techniques that you can use here, but a great way of doing it. Next, we have the history brush tool. The history brush tool and the art history brush allows you to, again, anything with paintbrushes, you'll see up here, you'll have your paintbrush toolbar here. You can select this, you can increase the size of your brush, you can change the different types of brush strokes here, and then as you can see, the history brush stroke will allow you to restore part of an image to what it was previously. So if you have, basically added, like I have here, little lines, you can remove that, and it'll take it back to a previous state of that image. Next, we will have our eraser tool. This is fairly self-explanatory. Let's say you've drawn something here, we'll select our eraser tool, and it's going to erase. Now, the way this works, because the layer that I have here is just a background layer, it's going to erase to a white color. So what you'd want to do is, let's say that's why layers are so important in Photoshop. If you draw something using the brush tool, you would want to do it on a new layer, and that allows you to basically color something here on your image. And then when we grab our eraser tool, or even the history tool that I just showed you, and we erase, it's going to bring back the layer underneath it, and it's not going to bring out that base white layer, right? So that allows us to go, and if we increase the size of this here, it allows us to erase back to the background layer here. So again, layers are so critical to making sure that you're putting stuff one on top of the other, and it's a very simplistic approach as far as creating a project in Photoshop. So that's why layers are so critical when doing stuff within the program. All right, so you have your eraser tool here. Next, we're going to have our gradient tool. This one's cool. If we have a new project here, we have our gradient tool here. Basically, if you go left to right or whatever direction you go here, it's going to make a gradient for you on whatever layer or object you are obviously on. So right here with the gradient tool selected, you have a drop-down menu here, and there are a number of pre-built gradients from the different colors. So you have pastels, you have neutrals, but if we go here and select one of our pre-made gradients, whatever way we go, say left to right, that's the way the gradient is going to be, and you can apply that to images, layers, and anything within Photoshop. I love the gradient tool, and obviously, this is just the basics of what you can do. Like with the gradient tool, you can even change the type of mode. You can change the type of gradient that it is, linear, horizontal, vertical. You can reverse it, whatever it may be. All of this can be done here with the toolbar here with those specific tools, okay? All right, and next we have our blur tool, sharpen, and smudge tool. These are fairly self-explanatory. You select these brushes like the smudge tool, and it's going to smudge different areas of your image, like what you see here. And then the blur tool is going to be self-explanatory. It's going to blur it depending on kind of how intense you want that setting to be. So that's going to be those tools there. Next, we have our dodge, burn, and sponge tool. These tools are very good because like the dodge tool here is going to lighten specific areas of an image. As you can see here, I'm kind of lightening that. And then if we go to the burn tool, it's going to do the exact opposite. It's going to darken specific areas. Anytime in Photoshop, if you hit Command or Control and then the plus symbol, it allows you to zoom in or out. So I'm going to zoom in and out here just to show you these tools. So again, the dodge tool is going to lighten specific areas. Let's say I want to kind of lighten that area of the dog's face there. I can select that tool and lighten it, and I'm going to undo that just for the purposes of the video. And the burn tool will do the same thing, except it'll add little dark areas. Like if I want to add little dark highlights here into this image, I can do so by using the dodge tool. All right, so that's basically how you utilize that. Next, we're going to have our pen tool. This is probably one of those that you want to go watch a full video on. Basically, if you want to create different shapes and draw things within Photoshop, this allows you to create individual points. So if I click and create these points, and if I click and hold, it'll allow me to, again, turn and curve the different areas here. So that's going to be your pen tool where you can draw different things. And then the text tool. This one is important. Now, you have horizontal, which allows you to text, create text left to right. And then you have vertical, allowing you to text, create and type text up and down. So horizontal, if I do that there, and then I click anywhere on my image here, I can start typing in text or whatever I want. And then basically what I could do is with the move tool, I can move that. I can click and drag that to make it bigger, just like so. Anything that I want to do, I can do by just grabbing the text box here. And then by double clicking, it allows me to get into that text and change the color. Like I said earlier, if we wanted to, we can even make that color to be a nice little brown color. So what I would do is I would select the eyedropper tool, select the brown that I would want there. And then what I would do is go here and then select the eyedropper tool. And that's going to be a nice little brown color from the doggo there, okay? And then if you want to change the font of that, what you could do is you could just double click into that. And then once you do, you'll see something in your toolbar that allows you to select the different types of fonts here that you have on your computer. The text tool's fairly self-explanatory. The only difference here is obviously if we select this here, you can type up and down if that's something that you would want to do. But again, the text tool, fairly self-explanatory. Next, we have our path selection and direct selection tool. Basically, this allows you to kind of select different individual points of a project or an object. I wouldn't focus too much on that just yet, right? And allows you to individually select things as well. Next, we have our shape tool. Click and hold down. You'll see you have rectangles, ellipses, triangles, polygon, line tool, custom shape tool. Fairly self-explanatory. Click and hold to draw out your shape. If you hold shift while drawing a shape, it'll draw a perfect circle. With the ellipse tool and with the rectangle tool, holding down shift allows you to create a perfect square. A little bit of a pro tip for you there. And then next you have your hand tool. Basically, this allows you, as you are zoomed into a project, to basically click and hold and drag around into an image if that's what you want to do. And then lastly, we have our zoom tool. If we select that there with the zoom in action, it will zoom in. And then if you hit the minus here, it will, as you click, zoom out of an object. I prefer Command and Control plus and minus. It just makes it that much easier. Now, the last thing I want to show you is exporting and saving. Once you're done with the project here, what you'll want to do is go to File, and then you'll see something as Save and Save As. Basically, when you go to Save As, it's going to give you this dialog box here. I always would save it in a PSD or a Photoshop format first. So do this first, File, Save As, Photoshop, go to Save. That way you have the PSD to click on and go back, because you will not be able to go back and play with all your different layers and things like that once you export as a JPEG or a PNG or whatever it may be. So save it as a PSD first, and then go to File. And then once here, what you want to do is go to Export, and then you want to go to Export As, and then it's going to bring up this dialog box to you here. I know it's going to be confusing at first, but let's say normally you'd want to save this as a JPEG, PNG, or maybe you're creating a GIF. You can do that here too. I'm going to go ahead and select JPEG. You can increase or decrease the quality right here if you want to. You can change the width and height, but I would leave all of this alone unless you know what you're doing, and then just go to Export. And then once you do, go ahead and find out where you want to export that on your computer. And then once you do, you can see now, once I open that up on my Finder here on my Mac, basically this is going to be that JPEG that I just created. But if I save it as a PSD, it allows me to go back in here and change the text and the different additions that I've added here within Photoshop. Now, this has been a lot, but it's been a basic rundown, a beginner's rundown of how to use Adobe Photoshop. If you have any questions, please put those in the comments down below. Really appreciate you guys watching my videos. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.